Hey HR friends, welcome back. This is the summary video on step 3. Now, step 3 was all about these birth bars. We use these birth bars to show you how we create rhythmic data. Then we use these birth bars to help you understand plutonic strengths and plutonic weaknesses. And then at the end of step 3 here, we were discussing if you pass this objective, how you're given a reward and you can transition into the cycle of life. And if you don't pass the objective, you get stuck repeating the cycle of death again. Now, what we're going to do to help you understand this clearly is show you the difference in the birth bars. You see, these are the birth bars for the cycle of death. If you pass this objective, the birth bar looks completely different, although everything else will be the exact same. Now, to clearly understand this, we're going to need to review a mathematical pattern. So this is the spiraling pattern of math that repeats within the HRT tool. Now, before you get overwhelmed with these two graphs, I'm going to simplify it for you. So on each graph, there are 4 spirals. Each spiral is connecting a sequence of numbers. So on this red spiral, this first spiral is connecting the 1s. This spiral is connecting the 3s. This spiral is connecting the 5s. This spiral is connecting the 7s. On the green graph, or the green spiral, this spiral is connecting the 2s. This spiral is connecting the 4s. This spiral is connecting the 6s. This spiral is connecting the 8s. Okay, now before we start here, it's important to understand these two graphs would be superimposed on top of each other. These two spirals are interconnected, but that becomes too hard to see what I'm doing here, so we've separated these out from side to side. Another important thing to note is on this red one, when I get to a blue line, you're going to hear me say color change, which means we have to switch and come over to this graph. Same thing if we're on the green spiral, when we get to the purple, I'll say color change, and that means we're going to switch back over to this because they're interconnected. Now, I'm going to scoot along here, people, so try to keep up. We're going to start right here. This is the sequence of 1s. This is the first spiral we're going to work through. 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 6, 1, 7, color change 2, 8. 2, 8, 2, 7, 2, 6, 2, 5, 2, 4, 2, 3, 2, 2, color change 3, 1. 3, 1, 3, 2, 3, 3, 3, 4, 3, 5, 3, 6, 3, 7, color change 4, 8. 4, 8, 4, 7, 4, 6, 4, 5, 4, 4, 4, 3, 4, 2, color change 5, 1. 5, 1, 5, 2, 5, 3, 5, 4, 5, 5, 5, 6, 5, 7, color change 6, 8. 6, 8, 6, 7, 6, 6, 6, 5, 6, 4, 6, 3, 6, 2, color change 7, 1. 7, 1, 7, 2, 7, 3, 7, 4, 7, 5, 7, 6, 7, 7, color change 8, 8. 8, 8, 8, 7, 8, 6, 8, 5, 8, 4, 8, 3, 8, 2, color change 1, 1, and we start over. Okay, what the heck just happened there? This is what happened. First thing I want you to notice or realize is we always went in the clockwise direction, whether we were on the red spiral or whether we were on the green spiral. So when this one ended, we're at 2, 8. This one starts at 2, 8 and just kept on going in the clockwise direction. Now, that's how they're the same. How are they different? On the red spiral, what's happening is it's creating separation. So as the spiral unwinds, it's actually creating separation. On this side, it's doing the opposite. It's actually bringing things together. So this spiral creates division. This spiral creates unity. That's how I would describe those two things. Okay, that's pretty cool. Now, this spiral, this is creating the birth bar for the cycle of death. This spiral creates the birth bar for the cycle of life. Now, these spirals are equal and opposite. That was what the 5-to-1 ratio we showed you was. Now, let's go check that out. So you've seen this graph or a variation of this graph before. So in the last video, we were talking about the 5-to-1 ratios from side to side. And we were talking about how one creates a positive feedback loop and the other one creates a negative feedback loop. So before we do anything else here, what I've done for you is I'm now showing you what the birth bar looks like if you complete the objective and you're born into the cycle of life. Now look at the difference between this birth bar and the birth bar we currently are doing our calculations with, okay? Now what's the difference here? So let's go to the cycle of death. So in the cycle of death, what this means is that this small little area here is our comfort zone. And anytime the hand of the clock is outside of this comfort zone, it's activating our defensive biochemistry. And when we're defensive, what we're going to do is we're going to separate ourselves from everybody else. Now, let's go back here for a second. That's what this one does. This spiral, we're together, and as this spiral unwinds, it separates us. So I'm trying to connect the dots here for you people. Okay, now, on this side, if we happen to be in the cycle of life, well, how can this one bring us together? Well, look at the size of this birth bar. So the majority of the time, 83% of the time, you're going to be in your comfort zone, but 17% of the time, your defensive biochemistry is going to be involved in your decision process. So what this is showing you is the red is just showing you when your defensive biochemistry is being activated. So in the cycle of life, it's only being activated 17% of the time. In the cycle of death, it's being activated 83% of the time. Now, as much as we want to believe that we're in control of our decisions in the cycle of death because we're being activated and our defensive biochemistry is happening without our consent or permission, it's influencing our choices. That's what's happening here, people. So here's the other thing that's important to understand. We're in the cycle of death. I didn't know how to tell you this. This is why I'm showing you this from side to side. It's not like we're on planet Earth and how we do here decides which cycle we go in. No, we're either in this cycle or we're in this cycle. This is the other thing that's important to understand. I don't know what anybody thinks heaven looks like, but I'm going to tell you, it looks just like this reality. You're born not knowing, you have a self-perspective, and you start to learn. Now, the difference in the cycle of life is you learn in a positive feedback system, meaning you aren't defensively reacting to everything, and neither is all the other people around you, so it's easy to work together and learn in a positive environment. When you're born into the cycle of death, not just you, but everyone is born disconnected and everyone is acting defensively, and that's what creates all of the conflict and stress that we experience. Now, the cycle of death really isn't designed to have you be successful. In fact, if you were unaware of this math, this is what we were saying, the probability that you're going to complete this objective, this is what sheer willpower is about, people. In order to complete this, you have an uphill battle, and what you have to do is you have to fight your defensive nature and decide that you want to act cooperatively, because I'm showing you why you'd want to do this, because when you die here, you're either going to be born back in this cycle with this birth bar, or you're going to be born in this cycle with this birth bar. Huge advantage if you can get to the cycle of life, no question about it. Okay, so what does this mean in the big picture? Let me show you. This is kind of cool too. So the HRT tool will work in either cycle. Now, we're not in the cycle of life. We are existing in the cycle of death. So all of these calculations wouldn't change. Our defensive biochemistry, the design of our body, everything identical. The only thing that isn't identical is in the cycle of life, our defensive mechanisms are only engaging a small percentage of the time. And in the cycle of death, they're going to happen a large percentage of the time. Now, how can we prove this? This is so easy to prove now that we know that 83% of the time, every person that exists in this cycle is going to act negatively. It makes predictions very easy. So what am I talking about? Predictions, these alignments. So when you see these alignments graphs, if you're in the cycle of death and you see an alignment, 83% chance something not so pleasant is going to happen when these alignments happen. Why? Well, these alignments are amplifications or tests to see if you have balanced choice. And because we're not designed to have balanced choice, all of these alignments mean it's highly likely that you're going to experience something pretty unpleasant. Versus if you were in the cycle of life, when we look at these alignments, it would be the exact opposite. In the cycle of life, when we see this alignment, 83% chance something spectacular is going to happen. 83% chance something spectacular is going to happen. Now, does that mean that when a tragic event happens that it's always going to happen on alignment? Well, about 83% of the time it's going to. That's pretty good math, people. Now, I think I want to end with an example, a couple examples here, because recently in the news, there have been some pretty large-scale tragic events, and I want to show you how accurate this math is so you can be certain that the information I'm sharing with you is not only truthful, but it's backed up by this math and this percentage right here. All right, let's show you how this works. All right, so what we're going to do now is just give you a couple examples so you can see how accurate this 83% prediction actually is. Now, I'm going to do a couple recent events, and then I'm going to jump back to a couple events that transpired in the past so you can see that this thing is accurate whether we go far back or just a few days back. Now, in the news here recently, Taiwan just had a pretty massive earthquake, the biggest earthquake they've experienced in 25 years. Now that happened this morning, and what we're going to do is we're going to go to that time when it hits. So the earthquake hit at 7:58 a.m. and we're going to have to change the time zone because it's obviously not Hawaii's time zone. It's a +8. So we got to run down here, and here it is right here. That's Taiwan's time zone. So this is the time the earthquake happened, and what we got to do is we got to give this a moment. There it is. So these are the alignments at the exact time of the earthquake. And if you remember in the videos that we've shown you, down here are weaker alignments, up here are stronger alignments. So if you're going to see a lot of devastation, when it really devastates an area, the alignments are going to happen in this top part. Now, I'm not going to talk about what these alignments are policing, because obviously these alignments are testing us. They're testing us both at the individual level and at the regional level. And if regional thought levels are out of balance and regional thought is creating actions that are creating conflict for the rest of the world, then they're going to experience tragedies and disasters. That's how this works. Okay, let's do another one here. So recently in Baltimore Harbor, there was an accident where a ship lost power, crashed into the bridge, and knocked down the entire bridge. We're going to look at that next. Now, the ship started to lose power about 1:25, where that's when they put in the Mayday call that said that they were worried. And we got to change this time zone here, so just give me a hot second. And this was Eastern time, DTS. And we're just waiting for it to populate here. Okay, so there it is. Now, there are multiple alignments happening here, but when you think about any kind of tragic event, we're looking at higher ones, especially when it's going to last a long time. Like that bridge isn't getting fixed anytime soon. That's going to cause the people of Baltimore some headache and some unpleasantness for probably years here. And it's also affecting our economy. I mean, these are big things. So when you see big effects, you're going to expect to see big alignments. Again, this is how accurate this math is. All right, let's do a couple more here. Now let's go a little bit farther back in time. So what about wars? Can we predict those? Heck yeah, we can. Let's show you. So Pearl Harbor's bombed, right? 1941. This is a big deal. This brings us into World War II, right? All right, so Pearl Harbor gets bombed at 7:48 a.m. and we got to go to Hawaiian time here, right? Let's do it. Here it is. Give this just a second to populate. All this information is going to change out. Yeah, that's a big deal. That's a level 14 alignment. This alignment goes on for days. That war was devastating. The things that happened in World War II, I don't want to talk about it. And I wish we had this understanding back then, but we didn't. But we do now, and we're going to use it for good is what we're going to do. So for people who want to use this tool to look up events like you got in a car accident, you can figure out what that cost. Now, the reason why this is so accurate, I'm going to say it one last time, and this is how we're ending, with 83% certainty. Now, what that means is that's how much work it's going to take. You're going to have to work 83% harder if you want to balance your choices so you don't get stuck in a reality that every time these alignments happen, something unpleasant is about to happen. Okay, that's a good place to end this. And the good news is this: we know how to make this better. We know how to teach you to use this technology. Now that's what we're going to do next. We're going to start to show you how to look at your own rhythms so that you can start making things better for you. And really what has to happen is we all have to start making things better for ourselves. And as we do this as individuals, we're going to see the collective work as all of these big tragedies that we're experiencing right now, we can actually start to deter or limit them. All right, we'll see you next video. Talk to you soon.